130,000 new jobs added in August, coming in below the expectations of 158,000, but unemployment remains at a very low 3.7%. New York City Mayor and 2020 Democrat presidential candidate Bill de Blasio is now warning that we could see that unemployment number go a lot higher if we don't address what he says is the single most disruptive force in our society, the threat of automation. Listen.
Let's institute something that Bill Gates actually was the first one, I think, to call for, which is a quote-unquote robot tax. It says simply, you know, a worker pays income tax. You take away millions and millions of workers, that's a lot less revenue to take care of all the things we need in our society. And it means, of course, millions and millions of people don't have a livelihood. So if a company is going to put thousands of people out of work, they should bear responsibility for making sure those folks get a new job either in the same company or elsewhere. Right now, there is no American strategy, no federal government strategy to address automation, and it could be the single most disruptive force in our society that we've ever experienced. If you talk about tens of millions of working class and middle class Americans who no longer have work or the prospect of work, that's unacceptable. So the federal government has to step up.
Joining us now is Andy Puzder, former CEO of CKE Restaurants. So, Andy, what do you make of Mayor de Blasio's robot tax?
Well, first of all, his solution to everything is a tax. That's a terrible solution, number one. And number two, he doesn't understand the problem. The problem isn't that automation is taking jobs away. The problem is we don't have enough workers. The National Federation of Independent Businesses has a survey every month. For 18 months, businesses have been complaining they can't find enough workers. We have 7.3 million job openings and only 6 million people unemployed. That's 1.3 million more job openings than people unemployed. What people are ignoring in this most recent job report this morning was 590,000 more people have jobs, are employed this month than were employed last month, and about 600,000 more people entered the labor force. So the fact that unemployment stayed at 3.7% is reflective of the fact that the economy is absorbing what workers are out there. Try and get something done at your house. You know, you can't. The guy who's working on my house asked me if I knew anybody he could hire. I mean, we can't find. We need more automation. We don't have enough people to do the jobs.
Yeah.
No, that's very true. I mean, the report we got this morning, 130,000 jobs added, was a little bit lighter than the numbers we saw, say, last year. But the point is that if you want a job, there's a job out there for you with 7.3 million job openings. Wages are going up. That participation rate is going up. People are coming off the sidelines saying, hey, I feel confident about the economy, and they're looking for work. But, Andy, are you saying you're in favor of the automation or not? You're a little bit hesitant because it might take away from jobs, as Bill de Blasio was pointing out on Tucker's show.
When during the Obama administration, when I was CEO of the company that owned Carl's Jr. and Hardee's, we could have gone to automation. We could have gone to ordering kiosks and automated French fryers. We didn't do it because I don't support the move to automation, and we didn't need to do it. I thought it was more important that people had jobs. But we're now at a point when President Trump took office, there were 2.1 million more unemployed people than job openings. Today, we're at 1.3 million more job openings than people unemployed. This is a different world. Automation is not necessarily a bad thing. Automation can create jobs. Automation can lift people up. It can fill positions that businesses are unable to fill, which would help generate economic growth, which creates even more jobs. So, no, I'm not in favor of automating jobs away, but I think automation is coming. We need to understand it. We need to address it. And I think now's a good time because there's a lot of jobs out there that nobody's filling.
Just going back to the labor report this morning, there's a school of thought out there, and the argument has been made a lot today that the headline number missed expectations because, you have people tightening back on hiring because they're worried about the trade war and the possible effects there. How would you counter that argument?
I want to see, we're going to get, I think they come out around the 10th, the numbers on job openings. And if job openings have stayed elevated, I think that argument completely disappears. I really don't think it's a problem with businesses not wanting to hire. I don't think it's a problem with them not wanting to grow. I don't think it's fear of growth. I think they can't find the workers. And they've been telling us that in this NFIB survey for about 18 months. It's time we started listening to them and trying to figure out a way to address their problem.
Hey, Andy, this is
Gary
Adam,
Smith.
This is Adam Lashinsky with... Sorry, Gary, just real quickly. Andy,
Sure.
I think, number one, it's interesting as a former CEO, you're not looking forward into the future when automation is going to be a bigger deal than it is now. That's what de Blasio was talking about, and you're not. But more to the point, I want to commend you for making the case for increased immigration that we so obviously need in this country because, as you point out, we can't find people to fill the jobs. I'm sure you agree with me.
Yeah, look, I'm very supportive of legal immigration. The president is very supportive of legal immigration. So I don't really have a problem
That's funny.
with
I don't
that.
hear him talking about that very much.
Well, you should listen closer because he does talk about it. Legal immigration is wonderful. It's illegal immigration that's a problem, number one. Number two, look, I'm looking towards the future. If there comes a point in time where we have a serious problem with automation replacing people and creating unemployment, we'll have to address it. A tax won't be the way, but we'll have to address it. But right now and for the foreseeable future, that's just not the case. We have too many jobs and not enough people.
Well, Andy, Gary Smith here. I'm a little
Gary.
surprised. I'm in favor of 99% of what you said. I'm a little surprised you're not in favor of total automation because the conventional wisdom is wrong on this. Take the banks, for example. When ATMs were rolled out in the mid-'90s, banks thought, my gosh, we're going to have so few tellers. And they did, each branch. But what it enabled them to do was have more productivity and open up more branches. We actually have more tellers now, despite 400,000 ATMs. The same thing when Henry Ford automated the assembly line. People thought, my God, we're going to lose those jobs. It allowed more auto manufacturers in because they became more efficient. You probably would have been able to open a lot more restaurants if you had gone to more automation, don't you think?
Yeah, if I wasn't clear about that, I apologize. I'm not for 100% automation, but I do think automation makes it possible to grow. It doesn't take jobs away. It can create new jobs. I think what you said is absolutely right.
What about a federal agency to oversee automation?
Do we
haven't talked about
need another federal agency? I mean, no, we really don't need another federal agency.
I don't think so. Andy, great to see you.
Great
Thank
to
you
be here,
very
David.
much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Come back.